Today I want to show you the most natural way to EQ your tracks, which is why we are outside in cold British Columbia, Canada. This is too cold. Let's get inside.
Hi Beasley. You're a star. We gotta go make a video. You coming?
Watch this, she loves the studio. As I said, I want to show you the most natural way to EQ something that I've found anyways. I've had so much luck with this type of EQ and this technique that I just think it's worth sharing because it's not something that's really obvious and a first choice when you open up any of your EQ plugins. This is probably my most recommended mastering technique as well when people are asking how to handle EQing their masters, and I think you're gonna really like it. It's super easy and simple, but it's not actually built into a lot of EQs, at least not very easily. So let's jump in a session and I'll show you what this technique actually is. All right, I've got a video loaded up for you, but first just a quick reminder that if you like this kind of content and want me to make more, please do consider subscribing. It is so appreciated. So first thing I'm gonna do is just load up my favorite EQ, Fabfilter Pro-Q, and we will get into why you can use other EQs as well. But this one is definitely my personal favorite. And I'm just gonna drop a little point right there, right click, go to shape, and then you will see that there is a flat tilt option. This is really it. It is a tilt EQ. That is the whole shebang here. A tilt EQ, as you will see, if you move it up or down, it tilts the entire curve of your EQ left or right, like more bright, more dark. And what that results in is just a very transparent EQ move. The whole mix gets altered. It's not like you're just boosting the top end or just like boosting the low end. It is leaning the whole thing one way or the other. So let's actually see what that sounds like now. Okay, so I'm gonna start brightening it up. So I've boosted it almost 3 dB at the top and it still sounds like the same mix to me. So that's really cool. Let's go really far and just see how far we can push this. But notice that the bottom end, while it may get like quieter as the mix leans brighter, it still sounds like we're listening to the same mix. That still sounds really good. I mean, obviously that's gone too far. That's too bright, but like, the mix is still held together. We haven't like over-processed it in a crazy way. It still somehow works. This EQ is like very hard to mess up. You just kind of decide, do I want my track to be brighter or darker? Now, that is too far. I'm gonna push it all the way up to 9 dB here on the top. And now I'm gonna disable that and we're gonna compare it against like a shelf EQ. So I'll make a quick shelf here, and now I'm gonna raise that up to get to like 9 dB as well on this curve line here, and we'll see what that sounds like in comparison to the tilt EQ. So here we go. So to me, that sounds kind of harsher in a way, and like the low end is still just as there, which sounds less natural. Even though we're actually changing less in a way, the curve of the mix has been altered much more. So we can play that one more time, and then I will bypass it and listen to our tilt. Okay, bypassing that, going back to the tilt. Different results, right? We're boosting the top end about the same amount, but it is very different sounding to me. So for a small move, because that is too far, let's kind of find a sweet spot with this tilt EQ, I think. And we can see what it sounds like going darker, but I think it needs a little more top. I think that's where I like it, just that it's like a 1.81 dB boost. You don't need to go far, but it just leans the mix a little bit brighter without kind of changing things very much at all. Really, really enjoying that. It's great. So easy. It's really hard to mess up. And now one thing I've noticed is that not all EQs have this tilt option, like it's not built into the plugin itself. So what do you do in that case? Well, what you can do, I'll just delete that entirely, is just make a top shelf and a low shelf, and then alter as you would. So we could go, you know, let's say plus 6 dB here and minus 6 dB here, and then just flatten out our curve as much as we can. And that's gonna get you, like, it looks like a tilt EQ, and that is gonna do essentially the same thing. But you can't do that in real time while listening. So unfortunately, if you wanna be kind of listening as you make the move, a tilt EQ is really the only way to do that. Well, unless you have a control interface, of course. But if you're just mixing with a mouse, a tilt EQ is kind of magical because it allows you to alter the top and low end of the mix with one hand, right? So this is an option if you really need to get it done, but realistically, getting something like Fabfilter Pro-Q is totally a great choice. There are actually other tilt EQs available, like there's like little single knob plugins and stuff like that. They're great as well. I just like using Pro-Q. It's kind of my go-to for 99.9999% of what I do in EQ. It's, yeah, not endorsed by them, but gosh, I love them. And if you're a hardware nut, there actually are hardware EQs as well. And this actually might be the coolest place for tilt EQs to exist, believe it or not. If you've heard of tilt EQs before, you've probably heard of it in mastering, because that seems to be the type of people that use them the most. But that's always surprised me, because if it works in mastering, it also works in tracking, and it also works in mixing. So I'm really surprised I don't see more mixers using it. But for tracking, it's actually unbelievably helpful. So if you're tracking through one, you're probably gonna need to have a hardware version. I know Buzz Audio makes one called the Zodiac that's just fantastic. It's like so magical. Say you're recording an acoustic guitar that's got like super fresh, zingy strings on it. You just tilt it a little darker and it just sounds perfect. If you just need to like brighten up some overheads, it's just magical. So hardware version, totally recommended if you're building like a hardware studio. But for mixing, something like Fabfilter Pro-Q3 is totally great. And that's really it for this video. Just consider using a tilt EQ as your first EQ move. It's very transparent, it's hard to mess up, and I think it actually kind of helps with like the psychology of mixing as well, and just how you think of your tracks, just by using this little move to nudge things in the right direction rather than just going ham and making these giant curves, which of course you can do, but this is a really overlooked tool. Can't recommend it enough. And when people ask me what I use for my main mastering EQ, it's always Fabfilter Pro-Q, and there's always a tilt EQ ready to go. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to click subscribe and leave a comment below. And if you want to see some more mixing and mastering videos, check out this.